Welcome to Triangle BNI. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. Oak City Tech has a list of things they can help you with, from web design to SEO, social media, whatever you need to be found out in the digital world. If your potential clients can't find you, it's not going to help you connect with them, not going to do you much good. So please go to oakcitytech.com. Tell them what you're looking for. Tell Drago that we said hi. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning. Each week, we bring you a small business success story from Triangle BNI. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle, Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill. Each week, about 30 chapters and almost 600 members get together. And our only mission is to help each other grow their business. Our small business success story this week is Peggy Hoffert, a client services manager and realtor with Rowe Real Estate. Peggy, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Mike. And how are you today?
Well, I'm doing fine. This cold rain didn't do me any good this morning because I
I
couldn't
hear
get
you.
my walk in. It was raining just enough. I walked in the rain before with an umbrella, but it was just enough. It's like, I don't know that I'll be able to get out for the next couple of days, but I figure I'll just walk around the house for 45 minutes and call it an exercise.
Get your steps in. Yep, I hear you.
You know what that's like because you're a runner, and we're going to get to
Mhm.
that. But Peggy is a part of RDO2. Official name is Carry Connections. They meet every Monday morning at 8:30. Right now, it's by Zoom. But when we do get back into in-person meetings, it will be at the Maiden Inn. And Peggy, I've stopped trying to guess where we are on the COVID arc. I just throw my hands up because I was wrong in the beginning. I
Mhm.
thought May 1 for sure we'd be back meeting. So I just tell people, no idea. Get used to Zoom.
Right. Right.
How
Exactly.
has that affected the real estate part of your life with showings and meetings and everything like that?
When Zoom first raised its ugly head in the middle of March, I think most of us in the real estate industry were a little unsure as to how we could not only do our job, but where would clients come from because everybody was scared. Um, but at Hunter Row, which I will talk about profusely, we have processes and procedures in place that help us get beyond either short term or long term hiccups or snafus in the marketplace. And so our brokers in charge and managers got to work to try to make sense of what we can do and how we can do it well and still serve our clients. So honestly, we had to rethink a few things, but it was business as usual, and we have not stopped.
If you
Um,
can remember back to, what was it, late March? I always have March 23rd in my head, but
mhm.
when everything kind of started and we got new mandates from the White House, from the governor of North Carolina, the mayor of Raleigh, everything like that, what were the first couple things that you guys did have to adjust or change?
We had to develop a preview addendum to our process of showing houses. And this preview addendum had various layers to it, but basically it allowed buyers to put a little deposit down in order to let them go in to see a house. In other words, you had to kind of figure out how to put some skin in the game to let sellers know that you want to see their house. And of course, representing sellers as well, you had to calm them down and be sure that you were dressed in your full hazmat outfit um, to have people get in their house. I remember Jed Gronwald is my partner, and he's a member of Triangle Business Builders, RDO5. And so I was part of his 10-minute presentation back in March, and we had a listing. And I showed him in the house, we had a little basket with baggies with rubber gloves and booties and hand sanitizer just to let everybody in his chapter know, hey, we take this seriously. and we are equipping everyone sufficiently to enter a house. And I go in first, I open all the doors, turn on all the lights with my gloves on. And yeah, and I have to say that everyone I've come in contact with, especially all of us at Hunter Row, we took it seriously and had very few issues happen.
And that kind of did away with open houses, didn't it?
Well, I Hunter Row does not do open houses as a general rule. We work by referral only, and it is our impression after being in the market for so many years, open houses are pretty much an instrument for um, uh, agents to come in and find buyers. You get their contact information, and then you can follow up with them. So we figured that it's not a good use of our time because we work by referral only. So we want our buyers and sellers to know that we are not going to do things that we find to be not a very good use of their time and our time, quite frankly.
Have some things swung back to or closer to whatever normal was last February?
Um, I think so. As far as doing our job, people are have their guard a little bit down. I mean, we still take precautions, and we, as agents, um, recognize the comfort level of both the buyers and sellers. So we have our masks on all the time, but do we do gloves? Not necessarily. And again, everybody has their own personal way of dealing with all this, and we are just trying to be respectful. Did that answer your question?
Mhm. Did
Okay.
photographs come more into play?
I guess we always rely on good photographs, and we so very frequently get crummy photographs by agents who don't get really good photographers. Wink, wink. Many of whom are the best photographers are in BNI, so please reach out to them for sure. Um, we also employ video tours, especially during the beginnings of COVID. We would walk in, I know Jed Grunwald and I would walk around with our laptops, and we would take a video tour of a house. So I think we've used that more during COVID than we have in the past.
So how are your Hollywood skills these days with a camera and good eye, stuff like that? Because I know you wear a number of hats when you walk into a house, don't you?
Yes, I do. You mean as far as doing the video tours and
Oh, yeah.
things like,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you just have to be just totally aware of where you are and what you're doing all the time. And you have to watch what you say because something might slip out and go, well, that looks weird. But of course you don't want to say that, but you're thinking it. But I think, all of us are experienced in doing what we do. And it's part of what we try to be better at every day.
Are you going to be a licensed drone pilot anytime soon?
No, I'm not into the whole drone thing. We don't use that type of photography very much. I know our home inspector, Kevin Boble, shout out to Kev, uses drone photography for his inspections, and they're extremely helpful and appropriate. But we employ highly skilled photographers who shoot appropriate photos of what we want them to highlight. And with Jed Gronwald's fine photographic eye anyway, um, we have totally appropriate photos that do the job for our listings. And again, it saves us money because we don't have to pay for drone shots.
If you don't follow the real estate world, you would assume that it probably slowed down like a lot of industries did, but not the case here in the triangle, is it?
Not from our perspective at all. I mean, we work by referral only, so we still have our pipeline of referrals and people who we have worked with in the past who are, telling us about new people who want to buy or sell. So for us, at Hunter Rowe in general, and for Jed and me in particular, it has been nonstop. And shout out to um, the interest rates, because I think that has been the undergirding of everybody's desire to feel safe, to look at purchasing a home, because some of my clients have said, well, it's free money practically. You can't afford not to do it.
Despite everything that's going on with the economy, with COVID and everything, builders are still building houses, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. In fact, the market, it's such a seller's market, and our poor buyers who are in the highly competitive, 350 and under market, it's just so exhausting for them in spite of all the preparation that we do for them to get a home. Um, Many of them are just, rolling up their sleeves and going, let's get new construction, because we just cannot, our hearts and our heads and our psyche cannot imagine being turned down again for another house. And why they're losing many times is because someone's got cash.
Yeah.
Cash is king. It still is. And yeah, but it's not to say that we still don't have a lot of buyers who go under contract with resales, but wow, it's a tough one.
I feel for the folks in the $350,000 home range and down
Mhm.
looking to buy a house in the triangle. They have no problem selling their house, but they may not be able to find a house to buy.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah, it's totally crazy. But yeah, at Hunter Row, we have processes and procedures in place to really help get our offers as succinctly written as possible, with a lot of other added um, features to our offer letter that, a lot of times differentiate our buyers from other people.
You have been with Hunter Rowe. You're coming up on 4 years in March,
My
if my
oh,
math is
good.
correct. Yes. Hey, like to do a little research for the
I
show.
know.
Do you remember the first transaction you were part of?
Yes, I do.
Tell me about that. What jumps out at you about that? What do you remember?
Oh my goodness. It was so many moving parts, and I'm thinking, wow, they didn't teach us anything like this in real estate school. It's like, wow, this is the real deal. Um, and I think the thing that I remember most about it, again, things you didn't learn in real estate school, it's not about the houses, it's about the people. And you've got to have impeccable people skills and a great bounce back kind of personality for when you get, you know, um, make some mistakes or things don't go well. You've got to bounce back and get back up, because the clients are watching you. For me, they're watching me, and I have to fake it till I make it. And of course, at Hunter Row, I'm not working by myself, so I always have the collaborative team to help me and answer my questions. So yeah, I survived that, and I thought, okay, well, let's try it again. And it's gotten better and better. So
At
thanks for
what
bringing that up.
Yep, I love first stories. I love first, worst, and best. Those are my favorite
Mhm.
stories. In that first transaction you were part of, at what point in time in that transaction did you think, "Okay, I wanna keep doing this. This is good stuff."
I think it goes back to the people aspect. Um, you can always learn the techniques of real estate. And again, with Hunter Row, we're highly trained with checklists and to-do lists and things like that. But at the end of the day, man, you've got to have people skills. You really, really do. So I forgot your question.
What made during that transaction, something happened that made you think, "Oh, I
Um,
wanna be part of this."
Yeah. Um, as you learned, I went to seminary, so I had a lot of counseling training and clinical pastoral work and stuff. And it immediately came to mind that this is a lot of counseling and a lot of hard number crunching and strategizing around the market. But man, at the end of the day, you got to put your little Lucy, counseling 5 cents, little stand out in the front yard and go, okay, this is what my real estate career is.
And for those of you who are not big fans of the Charlie Brown cartoon, Lucy, I think the sign says psychiatrist, 5 cents, doctor is in, or something like that. So if you've never seen it before, go Google that. It's hysterical. We are here with Peggy Hoffert, a client service manager and realtor with Hunter Rowe Real Estate. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. Folks, the first thing you need is a website. If they can't find you, it doesn't matter what service or product is, because they're not going to know about it. You don't have to have the $50,000 price website, but you do have to have something that's functional where people can find you and they can learn more about you. So go to oakcitytech.com, tell them what you're looking for. I know they'll be able to help you. All right, Peggy, let's go back to your seminary education. You got your undergraduate at Carolina.
I did. Thank you. Go Heels.
Yes, I know it's this basketball season's weird, isn't it?
Oh, everything's weird.
Did I hear the other day that neither Carolina, Duke, or Kentucky's ranked in the top 20 right now?
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's
Oh, but
yeah.
what about Tennessee, huh? Have
Oh,
you got
we're a basketball school. We have more basketball wins than football, and usually that's the other way around. So
oh,
it's been a struggle, but we got a new AD, maybe a coach. But anyways,
yeah.
probably the same thing will happen. We just probably won't get that right either. But and then you got your MBA at Lutheran Theological Southern Seminary.
I did. It's not an MBA, it's a MAR, Masters of
Oh,
Art in Religion.
thank you.
Yes, if I had an MBA, Jed Gronwald is going to go, why the heck
Yeah.
are you not talking MBA stuff?
I get it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
MBA
He'd have to
stuff.
pay you more too. Yeah.
I know. There you go.
When you went to seminary school, what was the plan at that moment?
Well, after Carolina, I was very active. Well, I've always been active in the Lutheran Church, and I knew I wanted to have a career in the ministry. So I moved to Boston and did campus ministry at Harvard and MIT in Northeastern. And then I set off for the mission field. So I was in Japan for 3 years doing overseas mission work. And then I decided I was ready to go back to school and to become an ordained pastor in the Lutheran Church. So I chose Southern Seminary because being from North Carolina, I would be closer to family, and my mother was chronically ill. So it was good just to not go to Chicago, which is really where I wanted to go. Um, and then I realized after being my own independent self on the mission field, I came back to South Carolina in the early 1980s, and the Lutheran Church was a good old boy, just a good old boy network. And if you didn't go to Lenore Rhine or Newberry College and then go immediately into seminary, you were a square peg in a round hole. And that's kind of what I was like. Still one of the first women, not the first, but I'd say, first 100 women to pursue a seminary degree, to be ordained in the Lutheran Church back in the early 1980s. And so I thought, yeah, a lot of doors were being closed. And I thought, okay, this is God telling me I need to do something else. I need a new game plan. So instead of the 4-year program to get to be ordained with a Master's of Divinity, I left after 2 years. I finished my 2-year degree up and got a Master's of Art in Religion, which would allow me to be a Christian education director at a church, or as I like to call it, a glorified Sunday school teacher. But Martin Luther, I'm a huge scholar of and fan of Martin Luther. He has a big thing about vocation and avocation. Ministry was not going to be my vocation, but I could use it as my avocation for the rest of my life. And that's what I have done. So in many ways, real estate is another form of ministry. Now, there are some days, there's some clients, and I would just like to kick them in the next week. So I have to take my minister hat off before I do that. But still, I see myself just being able to relate to people because of that experience that I had. So, regardless of the paths you took or didn't take, or the road signs you missed, or the U turns you did, everything defines who you are. When I say you, I mean all y'all, it defines us to who we are. So here I am. And yeah, that's it.
I'm a big fan of that moment in time where we make a decision and we go down this road, be it a future spouse, a job, whatever that is. And that if we hadn't made that, where would we be now? If you didn't go to seminary school, if you graduated from Carolina and somebody called Peggy, we got this great job, had nothing to do with the ministry world. Was that ever a plan, or were you always headed to uh to the seminary?
I think eventually I was. There were some church jobs, like youth ministry things that I interviewed as well. But man, for me, the world is my oyster. And back when you're a bug-eyed, college graduate from UNC Chapel Hill, anything is game. And I just wanted to experience the world and see the world, and I did.
When you were in Japan, what did you learn about life in general, and more importantly, the role of ministry and the church for the folks in Japan that you came across?
Well, Japan is a very interesting country, and go back. Is it 40 years when I was there? I can't do the math, and I shudder to think how long ago that was in the early 80s. It was a much more closed up country, obviously, than it is now. Um, and I realized that there were so many people who took chances to go to church, who took risks. The women would come, some of them would come with their aprons on and their shopping bag in their hand, going, "Why do you have your apron and your shopping bag sitting in church?" And they go, "Well, I told my husband I was going shopping. If he knew I was going to church, it would not be good on so many levels." So they had so much more to risk. And I thought, wow, here I am, a first world person from a Christian country, and how I take it for granted my ability to worship the way I want. So it gave me a real appreciation of people's faith, um, and and then really just getting to know people who are so different than me, and learning a language that is so different than what I learned. And Mike, you may not know this, I had a TV show when I was over there.
Oh, do tell.
I did. Well, you just put me in front of a camera, and I mean, I know you guys primped and makeup and hair and the whole thing today, but um, I hosted an English conversation television show in Japan. It was local cable access back in the 1980s. They wanted a native speaker, and that's what I did in Japan. A way of ministering to people is not to invite them to go to church. You teach them English from a native speaker. They're all over it. They are all over it. So where do you have your class? At the church. And you talk about church and stuff. So that was sort of our modus operandi for being there. And then knowing people that I knew, they had this local cable access show, and they wanted someone to be on camera. It's like, well, pick me because I'm all over that. So the name of the show was I Can Speak English. So I had a native speaker next to me, and then I did the English part. She would explain things in Japanese because it was very basic English. So what I did it for about 2 years. We were on location. I said, hey, let's go to the airport and practice buying a ticket. Hey, let's go to the bus station and do something, and let's go to a restaurant. So I made it fun, the post office, and fun and educational. And I would love to do voiceovers. That was my other big thing that I wanted to do when I grew up. But, God had other plans, and I'm just so happy with how it's been. And I'm just so incredibly fulfilled. being at Hunter Rowe and working with Jed Grunwald, I can't imagine doing anything else at this moment.
I am a big fan of practical application of said information versus a lecture. You sitting in a studio, here's how you buy an airline ticket. They'll retain about 10% of that, but love the idea of going through the line at the airport. Who footed the bill for the show and whose station was it?
Well, again, it was local cable access. I have no idea. I honestly don't know. I think that station just wanted to have, fill its airtime with something that was educational and edifying and amusing, because I like making fun of myself. And yeah, it was widely enjoyed by many people. And
First of all, you stood out in general, being this short, feisty American woman.
mhm.
Did this make you more recognizable on the streets?
Oh my gosh. Well, I was recognizable living in my town. I lived in a small fishing village, and I was the only gaijin, which is foreigner. I was the only foreigner in the whole town. So when the only foreigner goes into the little grocery store, guess what people are looking at? What the foreigner is buying putting in her shopping cart. I was the object of curiosity and interest every single minute I was in Japan.
In that role, Peggy, you were ahead of your time. You could have been a social media influencer just by buying that one product and the whole town bought it. Oh, if
Exactly.
we
Well,
if we only knew then.
if we, yeah, I didn't even know what that was, but who knows, where, yeah. But anyway, and so when I came back to America, I could just take a deep breath, and I looked around. It's like nobody is paying attention to me. And I am so happy that I'm blending back in. I mean, and I have a sense of humor. I love making people laugh. I love making Jed Grunwald laugh. I tell him, my day is not complete until I make you laugh. And I didn't really have a sense of humor in Japan because their sense of humor is so different. And I didn't have the language capacity to really be a wordsmith like I am here. So that was exhausting for me as well. But it was a great experience. And yeah, I think everybody should live overseas.
What from that culture did you bring back with you that's still in your life today?
I think a sense of respect, especially for elders. They didn't have nursing homes. They didn't have a lot of things because you were with your family. Man, grandma and grandpa, they might have been in the back room, but they lived with you. You had a sense of obligation to your family. And I really found that to be very admirable.
How much of the language did you pick up?
Quite a bit because, I did have to speak quite a bit on the show. Um, and don't ask me to say anything in Japanese
Mhm.
because if you don't use it, you lose it. Thank you, Mike. You know me well enough. Um, yeah, but I've got an ear for it, and I can hear it. Like that show, that Marie Kondo show on the
The
Tidy
organizer.
show.
Yeah.
Oh, I love listening to her. She is such a quintessential Japanese woman. And I just love listening to her talk because I feel like I'm transported back in Japan, and I can pick up pretty much what she's saying. But yeah, it's a very strange language.
Were you over there by yourself?
I was over there with the Lutheran Church, and so they have a program, and they send about 3 or 4 recent college graduates who want to, do some things after their college career that might be church related. So I was over there with a lot of long-term missionaries, and then the other 3 women who came over with me. They were all in one town called Kumamoto, which is a big, heavily Lutheran city. I was by myself in a small fishing village about 90 kilometers away. So that was great for me. As Ivan Meisner considers himself a situational extrovert, I agree with that. I like my downtime and my introvert time. But man, you get a camera on me, Mike, and I'm
Yeah.
all over it.
Oh, yeah. I know. I know. Did you learn to fish while you were over there?
No, I'm not a fisherman. Nah.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
I was with Becky. This is right when we first got married. And she was working with a company, and a lot of the guys they fished a lot. And so one Saturday, this one we were living in Houston, we went to Galveston, and
Oh,
we
yeah.
guys got in a boat, and a half hour later, here comes the boat. They dropped me off and they went back out fishing. No interest in that. And
No interest. Yeah.
I heckle people when the fish aren't coming in. They didn't particularly care for that. So we are here with Peggy Hoffert. Excuse me. I'll get this right. Clients, I won't say customer, but it's client service manager and realtor with Rowe Real Estate. Peggy's also a member of RDO2 Carry Connections. They meet Monday mornings at 8:30. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. One of the things you need, folks, is social media help. We all do. It's not easy. We think we want to know it. We think we can do it. But to make posts so you can, on a regular basis, post and so you can be seen and found once a week doesn't do it. Folks at Oak City Tech know that world and they can help you with that. So go to oakcitytech.com and I know they'll be able to help you with that. Peggy, one of my favorite questions on the show for married people is, how did you meet your spouse, Jeff? And do you both tell the story the same way?
Oh, that's a good question about the tell the story. Well, again, I've always been active in the Lutheran Church. And from my experience in Japan, I moved to Washington, D.C., and I worked in a law firm with an American who had an office in Japan. So I traveled there back and forth, coordinating, Japanese kinds of things. So I was in Washington. I was a member of a Lutheran church in the suburbs. And it was a very lonely time in Washington because, most people my age really didn't do church on Sunday morning. But I knew that was part of my life. And so there was a social group of people like me who would get together on on a regular basis to socialize. We're all about the same age, mid 20s, active in the Lutheran church, but we needed other people, like-minded people to hang with. And so my husband was the same way. He grew up in Pennsylvania, a lifetime Lutheran, and was a member of a suburban Lutheran church out in Leesville, and the only single guy. And so they felt like they needed to, hook him up with every, single woman. But he found our group as well. And that's how we met.
Literally, though, where and how were you two introduced?
We do activities every month in our singles group, and there was a crab feast at the Alexandria waterfront in Old Town Alexandria. And so, we'd all show up and, socialize and drink beer and eat crabs. And I was also an avid cyclist at the time, belonged to a huge cycling group called Potomac Peddlers. So I'm sitting there chatting with people, and there was a seat across from me that was empty. And all of a sudden, this guy comes, good-looking guy, sits down and says, "Oh man, sorry I'm late. I was on a bike ride with Potomac Peddlers." It's like, oh, are you kidding me? So that piqued my interest. But my side of the story is that he didn't really remember me because I think he was trying to pick up the girl sitting next to me. Sonia from Minnesota, the nice Swedish girl, Sonia, forget about me here. What am I, chopped liver? So anyway, I got to be a little bit tenacious, and I decided to be on the organization committee that invites people and is on the phone chain because we didn't have internet back then. So I was on the phone chain, and I wanted A through H to make phone calls for the next meetings. And whose name started with H was Jeff Hoffert. So the rest is history.
And where was the first date?
Oh my gosh. The first date, we broke almost every single rule except the big one. We spent all day together. It was 4th of July. We met Prince William Park for a bike ride at about 7 a.m., did our thing. And then we sort of party hopped between his friends and mine, Alexandria, Old Town, blah, 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 blah. And then we went to the Washington Mall to watch the fireworks that, of course, everybody does. So we're on we got a picnic lunch and we're on the fireworks, and that ended at like 10:30. And then we go out dancing because you couldn't even get in your car then. The traffic was a mess. And then we didn't part company until probably 11:30 that night. So we spent over 12 and a half hours together on our first date. So it was kind of crazy. And we have been together ever since.
So things were looking up about midway through the day. You're like, okay, I can kind of get used to this, right?
Yeah, and you know what? I was older. I mean, I didn't get married till I was 36. So at that time, you kind of know what you want. And I wanted two things. I wanted a husband who was Lutheran, and I wanted a husband who was athletic. Because, being, in my mid 30s, I don't want to waste any more time. I didn't want voluntary chaos in my life. I knew what I wanted. And he checked both of the boxes, and yeah.
Wait, how long did you two date?
Uh July 4th was our first date. We got engaged the Easter after that. So that was March. And then we got married that Thanksgiving. So a year and a half, not
Okay.
quite.
Wait, then when did you get to DC?
Oh, that was earlier. Oh, the years just fly by.
I know the feeling.
Early 80s, I don't remember, honestly. I've
All
done
right.
so much, Mike. Yeah.
And now you two have two kids, Will and Sarah, correct?
Oh, gosh, Mike. Yes, exactly right.
And running, you mentioned athletics earlier. I know running, since you and I have known each other, I've known you as a runner as much as anything. Are we still running?
We're not currently because, in all honesty, I am so busy. And in the job that I do with Jed Grunwald, my time is really not my own. So I can't take 2 hours to go run because I need to answer phones. I need to be on it with him and with our clients. So I'm I'm really bad at setting boundaries. But yes, there is running and cycling and all that stuff. Still trying to stay healthy.
Are the kids doing that at least? And maybe Jeff's doing that.
Oh, everybody else is. I'm the
Okay.
I'm the biggest loser in the family, but we're working on it. Yeah, family, they're all athletic. And that's one of the things that we wanted our family to be. To us, sports is not a spectator event. You got to do it. So both kids were active in college, in high school at sports, and my daughter ran for Appalachian State. And yeah, that's just part of our lifestyle.
I ran track and cross country in high school. The first cross country meet I ran, my mom came to. I went to high school at Millbrook, and
Oh,
my mom came to the cross country meet. And after the meet was over, and I got home, and she was asking me about it, and I think I finished where I should have finished. I was okay, but not top
mhm.
tier. And I said, "How'd you like it?" And she said, "Well, I'll be honest with you, I'm never going to another meet again." And I said, "Well, why not?" Said, "Because I saw you start and I saw you finish, and I just had to sit there the rest of the
That's
time."
what it is. Yep, exactly.
And then our youngest son ran cross country in high school. The first time I went to a meet, I was telling my wife that story. And after the meet, she's like, "Yeah, kind of get it now."
Yeah, and that's my time to schmooze with all the parents.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, yeah, that was great.
Yeah. Track was a whole lot easier because there was always something going on.
Exactly,
That was
right.
nice. I enjoyed that.
Yeah,
So you are split between, I know Sarah went to App State. Will went to,
NC State.
yeah. So is there, you know, do we talk Carolina and State and App State? Is there smack talk anywhere?
No, they weren't really into the rah-rah team stuff. They were Will especially is sort of a introverted type and was just into the science and stuff because he wanted to go to medical school. So yeah, that was his thing. He just wanted to study and make good grades and go on. And he since just got his master's from State in physiology, and he's applying to medical schools right
Very
now.
nice.
Hmm.
You and I go back probably as long as you've been in BNI. You've been
Yep,
about 8 years, and so have I, and that's where we first met. You were selling the handbags.
I was
Did
Michi
you? Yeah.
handbags.
Those went over well. What was why the transition from that to the real estate world?
Well, first of all, Michi went out of business, so there's that. A
That
number
would,
of direct sales companies, they just kind of do. That's the lifespan of a company. Um, and so after that, I was active in RD29, and so then I've talked to Steve Hand about it. He says, "Well, you can stay in BNI," and it's like, "Well, Steve, I got nothing to say." And then he talked about me being a consulting director because I have a lot of teaching skills, and I'm great with administrative things and processes and procedures. So again, with Mike, you and I were consulting directors for a number of years. And then I knew I wanted to do something different. And Jane Ball, shout out to Jane, Garner Power Partners, said something in her 60 seconds. She's looking for a buyer's agent. And I'm sitting there, taking my notes. And I got home. It's like, buyer's agent, realtor. I think this is one of those God moments where God was speaking to me going, this is where I want you to be. So I had a one-to-one with Jane, and she says, well, first of all, Peggy, you got to have your license before you can do anything. And then I started pursuing it. And I think within 4 weeks, I was enrolled in school. And then I talked to Steve Hand about it. I said, Steve, I'm thinking of going into real estate. And he looked at me, he said, well, you should have done that. Well, I knew you were going to do that at some point, or you should have done that a long time ago. It did not surprise him at all. So that was real encouraging for me because of my sales skills and my people skills doing my direct sales and, hanging with you and all the great people at BNI that I learned. It was a natural progression, and I never would have thought I'd be in real estate, but I love it.
In another life in Florida, I was a business broker. And in Florida, which I believe, unlike North Carolina, you have to take the real estate test to have your license as a business broker. And I'm a pretty good test taker. I'm a better student than I'm a test taker because I process everything because I ask a lot of questions. I'm okay. My grades were good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and take the test. It's on the computer, right? You're hitting the answers and everything. You're done. And I walked back out of the test room to the main area wanting to know just kind of what the process is. And the lady running it goes, here, why don't you come with me in this room? I'm like, oh man, I just failed. And so we walked in the room. I'm looking at her. She goes, I wanted to tell you, congratulations, you passed.
Oh,
I assume that's what they do now. But when she goes, come into this room with me so nobody
yeah,
else can
really.
hear how dumb you are, but you passed the test.
Oh man. Yeah. Oh, I'm
Oh,
feeling you there.
that's a healthy test. Are you a good test taker?
I am, and I'm smart. I got a master's degree, and that real estate test just kicked my rear end.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I got the national part the first time, but the state, I had to take it 2 more times. And so I'm sitting in the waiting room in the test facility there on Millbrook, um, Six Forks Road, and we're all there, and bunch of losers. And some lady said, "If I flunk this test one more time, I'm going to medical school."
Ooh.
Because it doesn't matter how smart you are, you just have to finesse your way through these questions. So, and I really felt for her because, yeah, honey, I'm kind of smart too, and this is kicking my rear. But I
Do-
passed it on the third time,
it-
and then I passed the test Friday night. I told people at Hunter Row I'm ready to go, and I showed up at work 8 o'clock on Monday, and it's been nonstop.
Wonderful. Does this lady know there's a few more tests involved in medical school than the real estate world?
Well, her idea was, this is not work. I'm smart enough, and this is not working for some reason. I'm going to go do something else. So I really understood what she was saying in the context of it being in the biggest loser room.
There are over 7,000 licensed agents in the Triangle, which is a number that just blows my mind. And 90, I'm going to throw a number out. I assume it's close. 80 to 90% of those people do it part-time. And even that's a generous term. For the folks thinking about the real estate world or maybe lost their job, who's a good candidate to be a realtor?
Someone who is willing to give it a go full time, full bore, no questions asked, just do it. Because the word traction comes into play. You will not gain traction if you've got other commitments. And someone who has some money saved up, because this is 100% commission. And even the good ones, by the time you find a client, do a transaction, and get a payout, it could be 6 months before you receive a dime, and then not even mentioning all the money you've had to pay up front. So yeah, do it, really do it full time, be committed, and have a financial plan.
What I've learned about realtors and my coaching partners, Trinity French,
Hey, Trinity.
a coworker of yours at Hunter Rowe, is the assumption that it's easy to put a sign in a yard to sell. Yes. If the house is under $350,000, will it sell relatively quickly? The answer is yes. But where people don't give realtors the tip of the hat is the work you put into that relationship to be able to put your sign in that yard.
Yes, absolutely.
They just think you show up and go, "Oh, hey, I met somebody yesterday. They want to sell today, so I put my." No, you're cultivating relationships for a while. Talk about getting paid for a while. I'm sure you and Jed have met. And by the way, Jed was the second guest on the show way
I
back.
saw his show.
Yeah,
Yeah,
way
very
back
good.
when. The assumption, talking about getting paid. You may work with a client for a year before they're even ready to sell, which is kind of what you'd like to do, isn't it? You want to get them so you
Yes,
can help them.
yes. And it goes, at least how we do real estate, it pairs very well with the BNI method of you have to know, like, and trust. And that goes both ways, because this is the biggest investment in someone's life, either on the buy or the sell. And they want to be sure that they will be comfortable. And their finances are kind of splayed out there as well. So you've got full exposure here, and really you need to cultivate a relationship.
Well, Peggy, we've enjoyed this very much. For the folks who've been watching and listening, we've been putting your phone number up there on the screen a number of times during the show. It is 919-656-2223. That's how they can get in touch with you. I think Hunter Rowe's name in the market is speaks for itself. You guys do some serious work, and working by referral, people don't understand the hours you need to put in by referral, but your closing rate's going to be higher because somebody from a trusted source was referred to you. And I
Hmm.
like that. I know you and Jed and the folks at Hunter Roll take good care of them. Your Carry Connections chapter, where you're the secretary treasurer, we failed to mention, I know is going well. You guys are having off to a good start this year.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're hitting the ground running. We did a lot of preparation the end of last year, got lots of new members, and we're on a trajectory. I'm so excited.
So
Great show.
anybody in the Cary area, 8:30 on Monday mornings, you can go to trianglebni.com and find the link to their website to register to visit. And Peggy, we enjoyed it very much. We wish you the best of luck in 2021 for however long, whatever lasts, but we've enjoyed having you on the show.
Thank you, Mike. Right back at you.
And we'll see everybody next time on Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.